This will be Fantastic CX, the key to hitting your acquisition and retention goals. Now, please put your hands together for our moderator. I apologize if I pronounce this wrong. I do remember your name from last year. Preethy Padmanabhan, I hope. And Senior Director of Product Marketing at Freshworks, and our panelist, Mr. Paul D. Bonis, Managing Partner of North America at TLC Worldwide. I also have a Mr. Rich Tran, the Chief Strategy Officer at Trishula Consulting, LLC. A Mr. Tom Burniston, who is the Marketing Director at Samon AB, and also Mr. Ethan Rasiel, CEO and founder of Lightspeed PR. Thank you, guys.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, nice all of you to get here so early. So kudos to all of us for doing that. My name is Preethy Padmanabhan. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Freshworks. Freshworks is a public company, about 500 million in revenue. We are in the customer support, IT, CRM, SaaS software business. I personally also have a podcast called 10X Growth Strategies, where we talk about how to grow your business or your personal growth through books. So that is a little bit about myself. Today's panel is about Fantastic CX, a goal on customer acquisition and retention, and we have a fantastic lineup of speakers here. I'll let each of them introduce themselves, so if we can start with you, Paul.
Sure, Paul Bonis. I'm Managing Partner at TLC Worldwide. We help brands, so our business is B2B, B2B to C. So our clients are brands, often agencies or clients that provide tech solutions to these brands to offer ways to help these brands stand out, seem a little bit different from the offers that are next to them in the marketplace. How are you, I think Fernando put it yesterday, people often are bored or don't want to talk to things that bore them. And if you go out to the marketplace and you see an offer or something that someone's trying to sell you a product and it's the same offer as the guy next to him, as the guy next to him, as the girl next to him, how do you differentiate yourself? And so we create incentive and reward programs based on experiences that can give a personality to a brand message, to a product offering. And that really helps brands to maximize their acquisition as well as retention.
Fantastic. How about you, Rich?
Thank you. Rich Tran. I'm Chief Strategy Officer of TFS, Trishula Consulting, DBA as Trishula Federal Services. Primarily B2B now. I support a lot of federal contractors across the DMV as well as nationally, aspiring to have my own federal contracts, but that's a work in progress. Really, from a line of systems integrators, and that's my background, right? And we focus on transformation and automation and building efficiencies across the federal government. My current client and my primary engagement right now is a health management consultancy, and we're focused on transforming federal health, be it VHA, DHS, you name it, right? So that's kind of the mission currently, the focus, just bringing technology to enhance care to our veterans, to the public, to the people.
Great. How about you, Tom?
Tom Burniston, Marketing Director for Samon. I'm based in the UK, as you might tell from my accent. The company is actually headquartered in Sweden. We focus in gas detection. I've worked in gas detection for 19 years now in various commercial roles. But at Samon, we focus into refrigeration markets. We don't really go to end users, so it's a different model to what some people may have with their businesses. But we work through a lot of distribution channels, a lot of private label partners, but ultimately we end up in the back of your local Walmart store or your Kroger store, or monitoring the air conditioning in a Hilton hotel, or there's probably a gas detector monitoring a chiller system somewhere in this building. So the reason they're there is twofold. It's environmental and it's safety basis. The gases used in refrigerating systems are greenhouse gases, essentially, so there's a big global move to reduce the impact of those, but primarily it's a life safety issue. It's to the point where if one of these things leaks and there's no detector in there, someone can walk into the room and they're not coming back out on their feet. So it's stuff we take seriously. So the customer experiences we deliver are pretty vital to the people using them.
Yeah, great. Great to see that perspective from across the ocean. So would love to hear from you, Ethan.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. My name's Ethan. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from New Jersey. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Lightspeed Public Relations and Marketing. So there's a lot of companies out there, including maybe a couple on the panel, that are doing amazing things that people don't know, that don't have awareness, don't have reputation, and they deserve to be known. They deserve to be discovered, and that's what we do. We basically, it's like publicity, but for companies instead of for people. For those of you, this may be obvious for those of you who have worked with PR, but that's what we do. We focus on companies in the technology space, but across that, every type of technology. And you will hear me use the word client because that's the lingo that we use, but those are customers, and there's actually a pretty big gap in the customer experience in my area. Many PR firms deliver a terrible customer experience, and so that's why I thought I could provide some wisdom on what not to do on the panel.
Great. As you can see, we have a wide variety of experiences on the panel. When we started the discussion to prep for this, we were thinking that we need to start with the conversation about making customer support easy, reliable, and efficient. Nowadays, people need immediate support, and gone are the days when you had some software or solution or hardware product that would take months to install and be difficult to work with, or even high cost, right? That's a big cost efficiency is a big piece to it. So the first question I have for some of the panelists here is, how do you deliver fantastic CX to your customer? And what is the resulting impact on customer acquisition? Let's start with Ethan.
Sure. Well, actually, our customers don't know how to be customers. And that's going to be the case for almost all of you and almost everybody here. So whatever I'm doing that all day long. So I know how to do what I'm doing. The customer actually comes in not knowing what's expected of them. So the very first thing that we do, and I found this to be unique, and I'm surprised that others don't do this, is we train our clients. We do a training session for them. And I'm not talking about like how to use the platform. I'm not talking about the technical stuff. That, there's a webinar that every company will have. I'm talking about what we need from them to be successful. Not just what we're gonna do, it has to be a team effort to be successful. And a big part of delivering exceptional CX is the team, the collaboration between the two entities. It's not one-sided. So the very first thing we do is we do a training session for our clients, so we know how can we be successful together? What are the common areas that may cause us to fail? What are the roadblocks? We tell them exactly how much time. I tell my clients, I'm gonna need 2 hours a week from you. If you expect this to run on autopilot, we're gonna fail. I need 2 hours, 5% of your time a week, assuming you work 40 hours a week. So that's just an example. Very important to train clients, and I'll let others share their wisdom.
Great perspective on training and setting expectations too, right? Tom, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very different world that we work in many ways, but training and educating our customers is absolutely vital. We work with a lot of distribution partners, and they're often wholesalers, where the people who are going to install a refrigerating system, they buy their copper pipe from there, they buy their compressor, all their controls. We're a small part of what they do. we get their interest by educating them and making it very easy for them to actually want to sell our product as part of their package, because we actually help them understand it. They don't do gas detection, they don't know gas detection, we do, and it's our job to give them just enough information in a simple enough way for them to grasp, to actually do the right thing for their customers. So it's education, education, education at the start to actually build those relationships. So yeah, very much on board with your approach, Ethan.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else to add to that perspective before we move to retention?
You tell me.
Yeah.
For me, it's building the relationship. To Ethan's point, your customers will never know what they don't know. They don't know their pain points unless you draw it out of them. And it's really a conversation, a drink maybe, I don't know. But it's education, it's facilitating that growth for them, right? Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Excellent. Now, we talked a lot about customer acquisition. It's a well-known statistic that it takes 5 to 7x more cost to acquire a customer than to retain a customer. So customer retention is also important that we consider in our business. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, Paul. You have several loyalty programs and other things, strategies in place. Could you talk about them for customer retention?
Yeah, sure. And even just to kick it off in relation to the acquisition side first, I don't think it has to cost 5 to 7 times. I think it was a speaker yesterday talked about, it might have been you, creating an avatar and understanding exactly who you're speaking to for your customer. It starts with listening, having a conversation with them, and understanding. And the more you can understand their needs, the more effective, with technology and the AI that we're going to talk about, are ways to also lower that cost. But understanding all those elements certainly help you to acquire a customer more cheaply and faster. But it also sets the stage for retention, right? There's so many programs out there. There's so many loyalty programs that are offering exactly the same thing, right? And it causes people to feel less special. One of the major trends, especially if you look at millennials or young consumers, they want to feel special. They want to feel like they have a decision power. They want choice. Right, and so you really have to reach out and listen. What do they want? How can I relate to them? And if you do that out of just understanding that that's how a relationship works, right? I am married 10 years because I can have a conversation with my wife, understand if she wants something, if I want something. Every personal relationship you have in your life is exactly the same. That's what customers want from their programs. And if they feel that from you and from your program, and they don't feel that from the guy next to you, they'll choose you and they'll stay with you 10 out of 10 times.
Absolutely, yeah. Would you like to add to that perspective, Rich? Yeah.
And so I know you touched on AI. Conversations are great, but how do you get to that conversation, right? And how do you tailor your conversation to your specific client, your specific customer, or your specific target market? And I know we had this scheduled later in the day or in the conversation, but a lot of the analytics that goes into fueling that is there, and it's growing, and it's becoming more and more prevalent in empowering that customer experience, right? Especially now with social media and all the data that's being ingested from a consumer perspective, I think you can have much more nuanced conversations than ever before. And I'll leave it at that, and we can kind of dig deeper later. But
yeah, and Tom has a different perspective, being that you have a B2C type of experience too. Would love to hear your thoughts on loyalty and other programs that you do.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really do any kind of loyalty programs as such, but it's a case of building loyalty within our customer base. It starts with, to Paul's point, it starts with understanding what they need. One of the things I've seen in businesses I've been in previously, where things go wrong, it's way before you even get to the customer. And it's back into, A product development cycle needs to be marketing-led and led by customers, not led by R&D. And I've seen too many times R&D go off with some fantastic technical innovation. It doesn't do anything for the customers. They don't want it. They're not going to pay for it. So that conversation piece, that understanding really intimately, what are their pain points? What do they need from you? I think it's important to retention before you even acquire the customer.
Yeah.
And in the world that we work in, what we do simply just has to work. They don't want to have to think about it. They want to install this box of electronics and not be bothered by it. They don't want it to alarm and shut down their plant, shut down the cold rooms in the back of your supermarket or anything like that. They just need it to not give them headaches. So for us, when we do have something where a customer does have a problem, because it's electronics, it's going to happen, we find the best thing to do, and actually what helps us is just to send them a new one. We'll charge them for it if when we get something back from them, they've put a screwdriver through the PCB or whatever it is that they've done that they shouldn't have done. If there's a problem with it, then we'll deal with that. But it's that speed of reaction and understanding that the biggest thing for them is to not be bothered by the part that we have there, because it's not a value add to their business. It's necessary, it's a safety thing, but it's not adding money to their bottom line, so they just don't want trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that keeping that customer service as the key focus, right, even while having those transactions or returns or those areas. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I want to say something about that, and I thought what you said was really smart. Keep it simple, right? I want you all to think about one thing that's really important when we talk about CX, and that is who actually is the customer. This is a common mistake that frankly I've made and that a lot of people make. So let me tell you what I mean. And this is about loyalty, so it's on topic with this. Is your customer the person who signed your agreement? Is it the person who uses your service, your platform? A big mistake is to consider that person to be your customer. Actually, that's not the customer. The entire organization is your customer. And if you focus all your efforts on just you may have a day-to-day contact. If you only think about that person and forget the rest of the organization, that's going to come back to bite you. I'll give you two ways that can fail dramatically, and these are things that have happened to me. Example one, we had a client, a customer for 4 years, and they were happy, it was working, we were delivering results, we were helping grow the business, they were thrilled. We were working with one guy. Let's call him Rob, because that's his name. And Rob went on vacation. I didn't approve that, but Rob went on vacation for 2 weeks. And while he was on vacation, this company did an audit of all of their expenses. And they were like, Lightspeed, what is this? Nobody knew that there even was a PR firm, because we were like just working with this one guy and we thought everything was great. We figured he was telling people. Well, he came back from vacation and said, guys, bad news. They cut the program. Nothing I could do. The decision was made. There was a board meeting. You're out. He said, I'm really sorry. I was in the south of France. If we had sent a report to the CEO or to the person who actually writes the checks, then those people would have known who we were and what we were doing. And seems pretty obvious, right? Of course you would do that, but a lot of companies don't do that. They're just working with whoever they're supposed to work with. And sometimes they're not even allowed to reach out to other people. They're told, just work with me. Well, I'm not gonna do that anymore. Even if I'm told not to, I'm sending a report to the CEO. They're gonna see what we're doing. They're gonna get an email from me with that information. And one more thing, not only do the other people in the organization need to know your product or your service or what you're doing, they need to know how to access it. It doesn't mean that they need to be able to use the platform, but they need to be able to get in there and get the results, get some kind of on-demand report, whether it's clicking a dashboard or looking at a PDF or something. So everybody in the organization who's a decision maker needs to be aware of what's going on and how to do it. And I just think that's really important. It's burned me too many times, and I don't want it to happen to you.
Yeah, well, great insights, right? Just to summarize, like we heard about how it's important to know your stakeholders and to know who are all involved in the decision, as well as giving the right training and other aspects of building relationship. A couple of additional perspectives I'd like to add is one is also knowing what segment of customers are you going after. For example, in our company, we work across SMB all the way to mid-market and enterprise. So when the whole recession and other issues happened over the last 3 years, a lot of SMB customers churned because they were not able to make the payment. They loved the product, they wanted to keep it. So as a business, we had to think about, oh, we have to make sure we have enough customers in other areas who would not churn. So that's another perspective to consider, so that we are not putting all our eggs in one basket, right? So that way, if somebody is not able to make their payment, we are affected as a business. So that's another perspective on targeting the right customer to acquire and retain. The next topic we were wanting to cover was consistency and reliability and predictability in customer service, right, and customer experience. And we were looking at sharing some stories and takeaways of both good and bad customer experiences. For example, a couple of weeks back, I called one of my vacations agency to book a cruise, and I had to change something about the cruise. And every time I had to reach a different person, they had exactly the information about me and what exactly I had talked to the prior person. It was a delight. I just loved it because I didn't have to repeat myself again and again. But we've had the other side also happen to us. There have been several times where we put on hold for like 30 minutes, an hour, and then you have to repeat yourself again, right? So that is both, I've faced both the good and the bad customer experience. And I know what happens when a bad customer experience, is faced and you actually churn. So I'd love to hear from all the panelists on a good or a bad experience and what were some of the takeaways that they had. Let's start with you, Paul.
Yeah, sure. So I think, as you put, we've all had good and bad customer experiences. Predictability in customer service and customer experience, it's a little bit of a different question in my world. I think predictability in the service you provide your customers is probably more aligned with why they're choosing to work with you. And what you can prove that you will do for them through that service. I think it's a big function of what Ethan was talking about in terms of training your clients to expect or to meet your expectations. And what I mean by that is I might have two of my team here right in front of me, and they can create and sell the exact same program to two different people, same product and same results. And this customer could be super happy, and this customer could be super unhappy, right? And it all comes down to how you've designed the expectations of the customer in that instance. The clients or customers that I sell programs for to do service customers, the end consumers in the market. And I would say outside of treating them like a person and training your team to think that way, that's always what I go back to is I know how I would like to be treated, and that's something that you can't always train, but that's what I always go back to. But it starts with expectations, I think.
Yeah, that's such an important point there. In fact, making the culture of the company to take care of the customer at every level. Fantastic. Rich, would you like to add?
So I have a slightly different take on that, and I think it's important that your frontline people can be chameleons, right? Because every customer is going to be different. Every culture is going to be different. For example, in the public sector, when I support DoD clients and clients who have come from a DoD background, it's very rank and file, but there's a sense of camaraderie, there's a brotherhood to it, right? So you play that game, and you learn that language, and you adapt yourself to work with your customer and provide the same offering as you would provide, let's say, a civilian agency who is the tax man, the IRS, right? They talk finance, so you got to learn the financing, right? So I'm abstracting out because I've served very broad markets, but I guess my point is, whatever market you serve, know thy customer, right? And pivot accordingly.
Yeah, know the customer. And Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I really couldn't agree more with Rich's point there. We work with people who are anything from a guy on the tools to the CEO of a company to technical people in organizations much bigger than ours. And we do that across the US, the UK, Italy, Sweden, everywhere. And so we've got this multitude of different characters in different countries and different cultures. So being able to adapt the approach that you take to actually bring them on side with you, I think is really important. Something that also occurs to me from what Paul said in terms of actually the different feeling that a customer gets even if they've got the same solution. One of the things that we've found pretty powerful, and that I have in a few different roles, is building that feeling of co-creation with a customer. So they're invested into what they're buying from you because they feel that they've actually designed it with you. Now in your mind, you might know it's really just an off-the-shelf solution and there's nothing special about it, but if you take them in that route where they've actually feel that they've created it, they're then your advocate internally within their business when they're pushing that up the chain to actually get these things signed off and approved. So that's something that I think can be very important.
Yeah. Ethan?
Yeah. Is anybody here a fan of the TV show Mad Men? Yeah, I mean, if you're in marketing, you probably have seen it. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's has a pretty profoundly accurate representation of marketing. And one of the things that Don Draper says is that the day that you sign a new client is the day that you start losing them. And we're here talking about retention, and that's really true. The client is often never as excited and happy as they are, or the customer, as they are on that first day. They're also nervous. They're wondering if they made, maybe I made the wrong choice, but they're also super excited to be starting this new chapter. So I want to urge you to make that first day something really special. Bring some excitement. Everything okay with it?
Sorry. Excitement.
He is creating the excitement.
The excitement is palpable here.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you may sign 100 customers that week, but to those 100 customers, they only hired one vendor. They don't care about the other 99. I don't care how many new customers that you signed. On that first day, that needs to be a party. You need to pop the champagne. You need to show them how excited you are and bring that energy so they can see that you're thrilled. And by the way, don't fake it. You need to really feel it. I'm not saying act or pretend. I'm saying be excited. Mm-hmm. Treat every client or every customer like it's a big deal, and they will feed off that energy. And like these guys were saying, Richard was saying, you gotta know your customer. I mean, I'm saying, find out what's their birthday. I'm saying, what are their kids' names and how old are they? And or whatever, where do they live? And, we're on Zooms. In fact, it's like, oh, you're in the same city as me? Oh my God, we could have been meeting in person all this time. I mean, that kind of stuff happens, right? You know what I'm talking about? So know your customer and bring some excitement, and that kind of stuff is going to really help improve the retention. I found that gone wrong a lot.
Wonderful. Know your customer, wow your customer, and be in the customer's shoes, right, to understand how they would look at your product and solution. Fantastic. Great insights all around.
Also, maybe the industry, to add to that. When you say learn the jargon, learn the terminology, mm-hmm. When a customer comes to you with a challenge or a problem and you can speak confidently and properly to
the way they understand it.
The way they understand it, but also the way other successful things in the industry have been done. Mm-hmm. It not only gives you more authority, but it gives them the comfort to want to work with you, right? And that's also the minute, maybe it is after you sign and you start losing it, you're losing a client after that first signature, but if they grow that trust in you and they feel comfortable with you, they're more likely to stay than take the leap with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah. yeah, absolutely. We just have one more planned question. After that, think about what questions you have for this wonderful panel here. No discussion is incomplete without talking about AI. I'm pretty sure you've heard it several times throughout this conference yesterday and starting today. So customer support is one of the top 5 areas that's been said to be affected by generative AI. In fact, you can go search within ChatGPT, you can ask the question, what are the top 5 areas? Customer support will likely come as one of the top 5 areas. So the question here I have for this group is, how do you see AI impacting customer experience, both positive or negative, and how does that affect acquisition or retention from your business perspective?
I like to hear Rich's point first.
So I'll start with the negative. We don't want a robotic experience, right? None of us wants a canned ChatGPT. Here's your recommendation, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. We've all seen it. But how it can be done effectively, let's layer it, right? So we've all, I think, in this room have used machine learning in some way, shape, or form to categorize our customers and or segment, what have you, right? Take it a step further and automate that with generative AI to create content for those customers in those groups, et cetera, right? So you can have a well-oiled algorithm that automates everything in the back end, and in the front end, tailor it to your audience, right? There are so many layers to it, right? And I can go on and on and on. And I can architect it too if you want, but be that as it may, right? It's a powerful tool to help us identify our customers, communicate with our customers, and even live, right? So you've now got the AIs that can detect and analyze conversations live, and you can in turn use generative AI on the back end to use that audio recording to generate responses for you, or at least summarize responses, and have that conversation live, powered by AI. And I think from a customer retention perspective, there are no longer hiccups in information delivery, or at the very least, there's no gap, right? There's continuous flow, and if you've got someone who can face with the customer, knows the lingo, and can have that conversation, that dialogue, I don't know the exact percentage because it's so new, but it's powerful. There's a lot of potential.
I think I agree completely. A lot of what you just said. I think negative is it robotic, right? I think the other negative is people are scared of it, because they don't understand it, which is most people are, or a lot of people are scared of things they don't understand. But to piggyback off the positives, I also think speed, efficiency. Right. That's what you talk about in terms of delivering, the information, and the ability to summarize those key points for decision makers who analyze that. Right. I don't think it's going to take that away. There's still going to be a need for it, but a lot of our clients are able to now see trends, see results, see data, and make a decision on anything from, do I want to spend on, how do I optimize my Facebook ads versus YouTube versus something else, and I got a real-time dashboard that's analyzing it, and now I can decide today maybe I put more gas here, maybe tomorrow I do more here, and it just helps it become faster, which should also, as I talked about before, lower your cost of acquisition and retention. Many of our clients use generative AI to create those avatars, and it helps them connect to people when they buy media on platforms and who they're marketing to. And that's just the tip. I know there's so much more that I don't even understand. But I think it's here to stay, and it's something that, if done right, should be much more positive than negative.
And I would also offer a word of caution as we're considering using generative AI, yes, there are these open source models, and then you've got ChatGPT, of course. But what you put into it trains the model too. Your customer data, your IP, all that's going up there. So if you're going to do it right and protect yourself.
And to add to that, actually, one of the points that we had discussed even in a panel yesterday was about how do you protect PII, right? Personal identifiable information, and even creating things like synthetic data, where you mimic the data, but it's not the same data, right? So that way you still protect your customer information. So AI does not actually start acting and taking over some of the challenges and business information that you have. So those are some points to think about. Do you have any perspective on AI, Ethan or Tom? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's something we're actively exploring and interested in, but it's knowing if you look at it from a customer support perspective, where we should draw the line, because I can see huge benefits for it in terms of things like the speed of response and helping guide people through certain aspects of what we do. But I've worked in my industry for many years. I know other people who have as well, and there are certain questions that are so nuanced in how you need to answer them and how you need to not really give a straight linear answer, because it depends. When we're talking life safety, making sure we were drawing the line before it got to a point of actually telling somebody something that could be dangerous is super important. So I think we're kind of cautious, not just as an organization, but as an overall industry, because there are serious risks of if you take it too far. So for us, I think we're more exploring a little bit kind of front-end support, but we'll need to get to the point of saying, right, no, you need to stop and speak to a person. I don't know enough about AA myself, honestly, to know when it's likely to get to the point where we can go beyond that, or if we can't. And that's kind of my take.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you?
I'll just say something real quick about it because I want to hear your questions. I will just say, for my world, AI is fundamentally incompatible with what we do. My business is called public relations, and it's not called robot relations, right? This is about people talking to people, right? You can't, at least the state of AI now is nowhere good enough to actually replace that. What it is useful for is what Paul was talking about, like doing a summary of a video, like somebody sends me a video, watch this, I can drop that into a generative AI platform and just get a recap. And instead of watching it, I can read a recap. Super helpful. Just make sure, if you're using that to send other people a summary, just make sure you check it first. Don't just do it and then just hope it's right, because these systems are often amazingly wrong, and they make a lot of mistakes. So just always double check the output.
I think from a corporate perspective, to your point, they can be wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're going to use it to accelerate ideation, brainstorming, have a panel of SMEs to be able to gut check it, fact check it, tailor it, what have you.
Yeah.
I think it's powerful in solutioning because it offers a human voice to research, right? And if you can integrate it and iterate with it, it could be a weapon.
Yeah, agreed.
And even further to that point, there's often, when you make a decision, you look at, I got this idea, this idea, this idea, right? Pros and cons of all of them. And AI helps you do that research very, very instantaneously.
Yep.
Whereas in the past, even a year ago, 2 years ago, someone might have spent 6 hours on each thing coming up with what are the pros and cons. And AI might not be as in-depth or too in-depth because it's going to pull so much information.
Well,
and then learning how to prompt it.
And I would throw this to the audience and the panel too. Challenge yourself, right? Ask a question to your AI, whatever you're using, in the voice of a SME in that field.
Right.
Tell me what you see. Right? I ask, hey, how do I build this AWS architecture to Werner Vogel's, CTO of AWS? So the nuanced answers, right, and the voice and the characteristic of the response is changed based on who and how you tailor your prompt.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, actually that brings to the point that nowadays there's going to be some prompt engineering based jobs so that you get the right prompts to get the right answers, right? So very interesting perspectives. As you can see, AI has a broad range of application across industries, across use cases, marketing being one of them. There's also sales, customer support, even in government, healthcare, all those areas, there's going to be impact of AI. How many of you think that AI will impact your business? A show of hands. Yeah, quite a few, more than 50%. Yeah, certainly. We only have another 10 minutes or so. Any questions from the audience that we can answer? Yes, go ahead. Why don't you start in the back? Yeah. Yeah.
So we talked a lot about the customers and understanding what's best for them. What platforms do you recommend for really getting that feedback from the customers? What do they do?
Yes. How do we get, what are some platforms you're using to get feedback? One tool is using like surveys, like several tools out there, SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics. Anybody want to add, like, how are you getting feedback?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a great question. Yeah, you repeated the question, right?
Yes.
Everybody heard that?
Yeah.
Great question. Personally, I don't love using SurveyMonkey and stuff like that to ask for feedback. I think it's impersonal. And what we do with our clients, because feedback is really important, is we have once a month, we just do a check-in where we ask them, like, how's it going? What's going well? What isn't going so well? What can we do better? It's really worth it. I know it takes more, it's not as efficient as doing a survey and automating it, but I think having that human touch, people are going to be much more honest and genuine if they're talking to another person than if they're filling out a form.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I'd agree. We don't really use any particular platforms of that nature. We work in a world where a lot of the time we don't know who our end users are because there are several steps in the chain before we get there. So the people we do deal with, we have pretty long-standing relationships with them. We get that feedback through conversation, and it helps build the relationship and make us actually really be able to dig in and understand. So yeah, we don't really use anything, but I think that's partly to do with our business model.
Yep, makes sense.
I was going to add that I find it very valuable to often ask for the feedback when you've lost the opportunity. We're all in sales. We don't win 100% of the time. Many clients will appreciate if you ask them why. What could I have done differently to win your business? Quite often that'll open the door another time, or at least make them open to having that conversation with you the next time. As opposed to somebody who's happy with you right now, who is happy, but they also are getting something from you, so they may not be overly honest because they don't want to hurt themselves. And so I like give me the tough conversation. Tell me what you don't like about me, and I can learn about that,
I agree. And the comment I'd add to that is I think that's a great feed into the product development roadmap for what you should be doing next as well.
Yeah, and one other aspect to think about besides doing those in-person connections and asking questions both when you win or lose is also one thing that we do is we have product-led growth where we have about 300,000 customers who are on free trial for our product, and about 60,000 of them are paid customers. For those customers who are already in free trial, we even go and look at what are their behaviors, because sometimes the feedback is given even non-verbally, right? So if they select a certain set of features, a certain set of steps before they actually convert, then that's a great feedback mechanism to find out what do you have to do to a particular customer to get them to become paid customers. So that can be translated even to other businesses on how do you define that whole buyer journey so that you can get more people to convert and become your customers. I think there's a question here. If you don't mind getting the mic, thank you. There's this person with a mic. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello? Oh.
Yep.
So I had a quick question about, right now people go online and they read reviews before they make a purchase, right? Or before they decide, I want to do business with this company. With the advent of AI, how do you think we're going to transition to address an AI-focused search versus what used to just be kind of like a gut intuition search? Like, oh, they've got 5 stars, I'll buy this camera. Or, yeah, their Trustpilot says 2 out of 5, I'm not going to work with this company. You know, in the future, we're going to have to account for how AI reviews your company and spits out a purchase intent.
Interesting question.
You got an answer? Okay. Well, okay. Thanks for that great question. I'll just give you part of the solution. Nobody knows the full answer to that. It's so early. But in our world, where we're setting up product reviews, what's really important is video testimonials, because you can't. I mean, there's deep fakes, but we're not really at a point where you can have a fake product review that's a talking head that's believable. So we tell our clients, don't just get those written reviews. We do deals with YouTubers and influencers and Instagram and TikTok to get video testimonials. And people Google, they see those. And we find those to be much more believable and genuine than something that's text and less easy to fake.
Great.
So I would say to consumers going forward, rely on omni-channel source and input, right? Obviously, you can generate a Yelp review. You can generate anything, any kind of review, right? And say 5 stars and multiply it by a million different accounts. At what point do all of those start looking the same? Right? So I think, and this might be a good business opportunity for you, right? Create an algorithm that can analyze all these reviews and say, hey, that's false, that's false, that's false. Maybe that would be a service to just filter all that's coming in, so that's generated. And in fact, isn't there a ChatGPT 0 language model out there that actually can detect what is generated and what's not? So I think there's some sort of implementation that should be done to that regard. But I think omni-channel, and just be wary of what you're reading, right, from a consumer perspective. But to your point, right, from a corporation, we just have to learn how to counter it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great insights. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question for Paul. So, hi Paul, I'm curious, I love TLC. I grew up watching TLC, instead of Disney, I was watching TLC with my parents. So I'm curious, in the Netflix era, how did TLC survive that dip, Because TLC is every show comes at a specific time, but with Netflix, I can watch whatever, whenever.
Yeah.
So, did TLC lose a lot of customers in the Netflix era? And how did you cope with that?
So, great question. TLC, we're not the same as the Learning Channel. We're a marketing agency, sorry.
But I think to add to that point, right, the important thing is being where the customer is. So certainly businesses that are changing, in terms of the channel of acquisition, we need to be nimble to then adjust to what is the right place that you can find the customer. So that is a key takeaway there. Any other questions? Okay, I think we just have less than 5 minutes. So let's wrap up by giving 1 to 2 lines of final words of wisdom. Let's start with Ethan.
Okay, well, first, I want to thank everybody for coming to this. I thought this was a great discussion. I'm going to put it to you this way. Actually, I think Rich, you were saying something along these lines. Simplicity is key. There's one thing that I've learned, and I've been doing this for 25 years. You've got to keep it simple. Complexity is the enemy. And that's become more clear with each passing day. And when I have a customer that's confused or that's overwhelmed or doesn't understand something, usually the way that manifests isn't by them saying, Ethan, I'm confused and overwhelmed. It's by them disengaging. They're going to do something else. They're not even going to talk to me. They're going to do, I just hit my microphone. They're going to do something that's easier. That's just human nature. We do what's easy. So make your thing, whatever it is, make it easy, make it simple, reduce the friction, reduce the roadblocks, and I think you're going to have success. By the way, just to plug, I'm also doing a talk tomorrow morning. I'm doing the keynote, so come see me there. Thanks.
Okay.
I'd actually echo that a lot. I mean, our tagline at Samon is simply reliable. Simplicity is what we focus on, making it very easy to say yes to choosing our company, choosing our product.
Yeah.
Simplicity of choosing which product and not just having a mind-boggling range of things that you can't understand. It's drilling the language down into stuff that the customers actually will understand, not whatever internal language you might have that might just confuse them. And so I think it comes back around to what we discussed a lot earlier, which is know your customer, know their level of understanding, speak to them in their language, and make it very simple to say yes.
I'll go a step further and say know your stakeholders, your customer stakeholders, right? Because your technical people aren't going to necessarily have the business input about what they can afford or what's too risky or if they have an agreement with another partner, right? So just, you got to take a holistic view of your customer, right? And not just your point of contact to your point. But know your customer and tailor your approach.
Okay.
I completely agree. I was going to actually say exactly the same thing. It starts with best understanding the person that you're talking to in the room at the given time and how you can relate and understand and provide solutions to them that will work.
Excellent. I think to summarize what everybody said, my takeaway is know your customer, wow your customer, be your customer, right? So with that 3-point formula, you'll be able to get the right acquisition and retention. And another additional final point I'd like to leave is to also think about your own brand as a person. How would you like to be known? And think about how you're going to show up as your experience, so something to translate into a personal brand journey. So thank you so much for being with us here today. Love to give a round of applause for our wonderful panelists here.